Welcome back to Goosebumpster's Glitch in the Matrix, subreddit top stories. Today's story has been written by TheKarmaDontMatter, and the story is called I Think I Just Became the Background Character for Another Person's Glitch. This technically happened last night, but I was just starting a graveyard shift and am only now getting it all down. I work at a gas station chain with only numbers in its name. We're just outside of a large chunk of suburb, aren't exactly near any other businesses, but we are rarely completely dead for hours at a time. It was just past midnight, and with everything going on in the US right now, not a lot of things other than gas stations and bars are open at night anymore, so it was a slower evening. I was the only one in the store, and a car pulled up to one of the two double-sided pumps out front. Pretty standard white 4-door. I'm not great with car brands, but it was a little nicer, like upper middle class and probably only a few years old. A woman gets out and starts walking towards our door like she's in a daze. Legit, this woman looked like she saw a ghost. She wanders up, sort of freezes at the door for a second with a 1,000-yard stare before opening it and coming in. She didn't go looking for anything, didn't start shopping, just sort of stood inside for what felt like ages. Again, bars are still open, so I think maybe she's a little drunk or had a rough night or something. So I give the usual, welcome to the gas station. Let me know if you need any help finding anything. And she finally notices me and immediately asks me the weirdest damn question I've ever been asked on the job. You could see me, right? Yeah? Like, what else do you say? She breaks down crying in the middle of my store, so I'm already headed around the corner to see what's up. I have my cell phone out in case I need to call the cops or something for her. I get her to sit down on a nearby pallet of soda, and I'm grabbing her a bottle of water after she catches her breath a little. She tells me, I thought I had died. Again, I'm thinking maybe she's on something, but she's a middle-aged woman who looks like a little standard local suburban housewife. We're a pretty boring township without your average junkies, like you find closer to cities. So she asks if she can call her husband to pick her up and wait with me. She has her own phone and does so, not really telling him anything either, just where she's at and if he can come get her. He says he'll call an Uber and be there as soon as possible. We're waiting. So far, nobody else has showed up. So I'm keeping most of my attention on her. And eventually she starts to explain to me, I was driving home from dinner with my coworkers, and as I'm driving through a nearby intersection, I recognized a truck ran a red light and hit me. Now, her car is still at the pump without a scratch on it. She goes on to say she remembers her car being pushed into a pole, going airborne, and then nothing. I tried to calm her down, letting her know that her car is out front and it looks fine. But she insisted that she completely blacked out, woke up in an ambulance for a split second, passed out again, and then woke up again in the driver's seat of her car, at the intersection waiting for her light to change. Perfectly fine. This whole thing freaked her out so badly that she drove to the nearest anything, us, just so she can get out of the car. Husband eventually showed up to get her. He asked if I had any idea what happened, and even though she sort of explained to me, I just shrugged because no, I had no idea what was happening anymore. She reluctantly got into the passenger seat of the car, and he drove them back home. That was hours ago, after which I worked an entire shift at the station trying to wrap my head around what the absolute hell I had just witnessed. Today's story has been written by Nestle13, and the story is called I Think I Died in Early July. Do you guys know the whole theory about how, when people die in one timeline, they shift into another? I think that may have happened to me. Back in early July of this year, my family were going on a road trip to Montana to visit our grandparents. Prior to the trip, I had a horrible feeling about going. I kept having flashes of car accidents in my head, and I was sure that we were going to get in one if we left. It was so strange, because I have a pretty severe anxiety disorder, but this didn't feel like my anxiety at all. And I never have anxiety about road trips. I love them. So we left Saturday of that week. I had told my parents I had a bad feeling about driving up there, but they dismissed me as being anxious. But I had never felt so certain about something in my life. Getting into that car felt like signing my death sentence. So we get about 6 hours in, and at this point, I start to think I was being ridiculous, and a wave of calmness just washes over me. This is where things get strange. My dad passes an underpass and everything just shifts. I feel like I saw everything in slow motion for a whole 4 or so minutes. My parents were joking beforehand, but their faces moved so slowly. Then the light in the car started to shift. This was the scary part, because I thought I must have been going insane. And I looked at my family, and I could not tell who they were or what they meant to me, but it felt like something imperceptible had changed. I closed my eyes and tried to make sense of the past few minutes, and when I reached back to remember, I saw blood. Our car and another minivan in shambles on the side of the highway right beyond the underpass, and mangled bodies. I remembered sensations I should not have known. What splattered brain matter looks like, the smell of something burning, the way I couldn't breathe. But this never happened. Yet I remember that the car in front of us had switched lanes even though there was a truck in front of us, realized it, and at the last second hit us with a lateral impact. I have no history of psychosis, and I have never been in any sort of car accident. This wasn't PTSD, and I have never had anxiety over being in the car in any sort of way prior to this. And maybe I could have just brushed it off. But I still think about it when I'm driving in my own car, and it's made me a more cautious driver. I don't know what happened. It was just a weird situation, and I remember having the distinct feeling in that moment that I had died in some sense. I am not a spiritually sensitive person by any means. I am a scientist at heart, but this truly was something I cannot explain. And I fully accept that I might be reading too much into this. And for some reason, I imagined an event that never happened, but I thought I would share it anyway. Today's story has been written by Harinas69, and the story is called Something is Wrong with My Girlfriend. Me and my girlfriend have been living together in an apartment for 2.5 years. Everything has been normal until quarantine started, around 4 weeks ago, when I started noticing some odd things. For instance, for the last 3 weeks or so, my girlfriend has been putting sugar in her morning coffee. While throughout our entire relationship, she's always been very much against it. It may seem like a small detail, but she's always complaining about how I don't know what real coffee is since I put quite a lot of sugar in it. On the first day that I saw her drinking coffee with sugar, I asked her, why would she do that? And she looked at me, weirded out, and said something like, "What are you talking about? I've always been putting sugar in my coffee." I felt a bit confused for a moment, but then we started talking about some other things, so I didn't think any more about it until the morning after, when she did the exact same thing, and had once again the same reaction. Fast forward a few days and another odd thing happened. We were having sex and she suddenly suggested a sex pose that we had already tried once, but it had gone wrong and it hurt her a lot, so we simply decided not to try it anymore. Naturally, I was very surprised with her suggestion and reminded her about the time when it went wrong, and she just completely dismissed it, saying that I probably mixed her up with some ex-girlfriend or that I was just tripping. We then did the pose and we actually enjoyed it. Today, the weirdest thing happened, which is the reason I'm writing this post. In the afternoon, I was working at home. I'm employed as a PhD student at the computer science department of a university. When my girlfriend asked me what's up with a guy who I've never heard of before, I asked her who was she referring to, and she said, well, it's that colleague of yours who you always talk about, and the one from the company where you are employed at. I froze and asked her to repeat, and she said the exact same thing all over again. Then I told her that I don't work at any company, nor have I ever worked at any company, since I started a PhD straight after my master's degree. At this point, she also completely froze, and we were just staring at each other completely confused and shocked for a few moments. She then asked me what the F is going on, and I reminded her about the coffee thing and about the sex pose, and that I don't know anymore what is going on. At this point, she started crying too, and asked what is wrong with us. Nor she, nor me, nor anyone in both families have ever had any mental problems in the past. We don't know what to do about this. Can anyone explain what's wrong with us? If you enjoy these stories, be sure to check out more of the author's content on their Reddit page and show your support. Links are in the description. Turborize the like button and subscribe for more Reddit's top scariest stories if you dare. I'll see you soon.